What's going on, guys? Bourbon and Ball. We're talking week 14 hitters, pitchers, sleepers. You're not going to want to miss this episode. You heard it here, Bourbon and Ball, week 14. I got Mikey V, Clearwater, Florida. I'm here in the man cave. We're going to be talking week 14 hitting. We're going to be talking pitching, sleepers, and not a ton of injuries, but got some really good sleepers. You know how we hit on those sleepers every week. So let's just roll right into it, man, and let's talk about must-start pitchers. I have 5 that obviously some are must starts, some are not, some are surprises. Let me run through the rhyme and reason as to why they're on this list, and then Mikey V, you want to break it down a little more. So I do have Mariners starting pitcher Bryan Woo. He's Monday at home versus the Angels, Sunday at home versus Toronto. 6-6, 93 innings pitched, 92 strikeouts, a 4.26 ERA, 167 points, 10.5 a start. That's not good, really. I mean, it's Listen, he's at home both starts where he's pitched so much better. Last start, 0-1, 4 innings, 5 earned, 2 walks, -4 points. That was at Pittsburgh. Again, 0-3 in his last 3 starts away, 4-0 in his last 4 starts at home. These are both winnable matchups. I like him this week. Even with the up and down year he's having, he's at home. That's the caveat to this, right? Next up, Red Sox starting pitcher Ranger Suarez, Monday versus the Nationals at home in Fenway, and then Sunday on the road in Los Angeles against the Angels. Last start, 6 innings, 1 earned, 9 strikeouts, 1 walk, a no decision, 15 points. That was in Colorado. On the year, 3-3, 82 innings pitched, 84 strikeouts, 25 walks, a 2.83 ERA. He's giving you 9.5 a start. There is a difference, though, between his 9.5 and Bryan Woo's 10 a start, and that is the offense behind the Red Sox. Honestly, it's not that he can't win games. I'm talking about Ranger. It's that the offense can't score runs for him to win games. He's got 15 starts this year. 9 of those are no decisions. Of the 9 no decisions, he's given up 2 earned or less in 7 of them. I like the matchup. I'd like to think at least one of these should be a W. Worst case scenario, he is striking out a ton. You might get another start like he did against Colorado. 9 strikeouts, got a no decision, but still the quality start, 15 points. Not too bad at all if you get something like that. Obviously, you want the win, but you got to look at best case scenario here. Next up, Phillies starting pitcher Suarez. I'm thinking about something totally different for some apparent reason today. Tuesday, he is pitching at home versus the Pirates. His last start was a no decision, 5 innings, 5 earned, 6 strikeouts, 3.4 points. That was in Washington against the Nationals. Still on the year, 9-3, 105 innings pitched, 121 strikeouts, a 1.8 ERA. Man, 17.8 a start. After a point this year of not giving up a run in 5 straight starts, he's now given up at least 1 in his last 4, with one of them being 4 earned in Milwaukee, 5 earned, which was his last start. With that said, he's at home. He's versus the Pirates. The Phillies offense is clicking. We're going to talk about that later on. Should be an easy win. Kind of one of those get-right matchups everybody always talks about. It's the Pirates. They should be able to squeak this one out. Next up, I always like to throw a relief starting pitcher in there, right? And Rays starting pitcher, relief pitcher, Nick Martinez. He's pretty good. I know Mike, you always point out he's the highest player on his payroll. Thursday, he's pitching in Kansas City against the Royals. His last start, 5 2/3, 1 earned, 3 strikeouts, 14.72 points. That was at home against the Diamondbacks. On the year, 7-2, 94 innings, 58 strikeouts, a 2.6 ERA. He's giving you 11.3 a start. It looks like maybe a couple of weeks ago he might have hit a wall, but 2-0 in his last 4 starts. I think even if he does give up a few runs, the offense can bail him out on this one, and he should be in line for the win. My only thing is his quality starts. It seems like once he gets into trouble around the 5th inning, Tampa likes to pull him, even if he's at 60 pitches. It's kind of wild for me to think about. You're at 60 pitches and you're pulled. But outside of the quality aspect, he's a great source for wins in that relief pitcher spot. So I like him. I like him there. I roll with him there. And then last but not least, I do have Giants starting pitcher Logan Webb Friday. He's pitching in Colorado against the Rockies, but last start against a really decent Braves team, even though they don't have Acuna Jr. He was at home. He went 1-0, 7 innings, 6 strikeouts, 0 earned, 24 points on the year, 5-5, 90 innings pitched, only 76 strikeouts, a 3.0 ERA. He's giving you 12.2 starts. Pretty good. Remember, first month and a half when this guy looked like he was lost in the mound. And everybody thought he was going to be lost for the rest of the year. Just the way he was going, he did not look right and hit the IL, came back strong. You know, all that doubt of maybe the last 3+ years of success has maybe finally caught up to him of going 200 innings, 200 strikeouts. That's kind of in the rearview mirror now. He's been one of the hotter pitchers, 3-1 in his last 5 starts. He's averaging 7 2/3 innings and 6 strikeouts, all those starts. Well, he gave up 2 earned once, 1 earned once, and then the remaining 3 starts, 0 earned. I think you ride the hot streak. I don't care. Even if it is in Colorado, Hunter Goodman is kind of getting pretty hot for a catcher, especially playing in Denver. But you ride the Webb man, and you take him for all he's worth. I think he's got a really good matchup this week in Colorado.
Yeah, like you said, regardless of Hunter Goodman hitting 3 home runs on Saturday night, Logan Webb, I think, is just kind of turned that corner, and now he's almost like a nuclear start. We saw it last year. He had a slow start last year, giving up runs, wasn't going deep in the games. The quality starts weren't there, but looks like he's finally turned that corner. I don't care who he's playing against. When he is on, he is a top 10 pitcher in baseball. So again, against the Rockies, I think this is a must start. Love the pick here, Doug. And you know what? I'm going to kind of turn the wheels a little bit with Nick Sanchez. Like we said, he's relief eligible. He's super value in that position. But we have to admit, he has been a beneficial to that Rays team in April and May, winning baseball games. That's why he is one of the top relief pitchers and starting pitchers, for that matter, as well, because of how hot the Rays were. I think if he has a really good game against the Royals, we might be talking about him on Friday night, Doug, as a sell high candidate, just because we don't know if Nick Martinez is going to continue this success here. But I love this matchups against the Royals. And again, the Rays look like they've turned a little bit of a corner. They're starting to have some wins this week. They're closing out their home series this weekend against the Diamondbacks, who they've been playing really well against. So maybe that momentum's going to carry over into the road series against Kansas City. So again, I'm keeping a really good pulse on him just because he could be a great candidate to sell high. Christopher Sanchez, man, Doug, isn't he due for a bounce back start? He's just too good to be pitching the way he has been these last few starts. And the Pirates offense, we used to talk about them in May as one of the top offenses in the National League, surprisingly. That's taken a step back now. I think reality has kind of come down with the Pittsburgh Pirates offense. And Christopher Sanchez at home against the Pirates, just love the matchup. Just a must start again. Rangers Suarez, again, you're writing out the hot hand. He's been pitching really well, again, except he plays for that Red Sox team. Is he going to get those run support? That first game against the Nationals at home, maybe not the most favorable matchup because we do know that Nationals offense is pretty good. But if he can just survive that, go 5-6 innings, maybe get that win, right, that we always talk about, just, squeaking that out, that second start looks way more valuable now against the Angels. Even if it's in Anaheim, I'm not worried about that. I'm punching the Rangers Suarez in there. And same thing with Brandon Wu. Both games are at home. You talked about the splits, Doug. The splits make a really big difference in these matchups here. Obviously, Brandon Wu, not the same guy as he was last year. We did talk about him on Friday night last Friday, but doesn't mean he still doesn't bring value to the table. So, again, this week, it's a must start, especially against the Angels. Toronto, kind of been up and down this year. You don't really know what you're going to get from them. So I'm very comfortable starting both those guys, Rangers Suarez and Brandon Wu, for their 2 starts.
Right. And you make a good point about that Nationals offense. It's hit or miss. And I think we are going to touch base on them a little bit later on. And maybe throw in a little sleeper from that team as well.
Ooh, I like sleepers, Doug.
I know you do. All right. Let's talk about some tough matchups now, okay? And some of these let me just get right into it before I start going crazy. So I first and foremost, I do have Mets starting pitcher Nolan McLean Monday at Toronto, Sunday at Atlanta, both away. 4-5 on the year, 89 innings pitched, 106 strikeouts, which is nice. 34 walks is a little kind of high. 4 ERA. He's giving you 9.9 to start. His last start was home, 0-1. He got the loss, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, 6 earned, only 0.88 points. Didn't even get you a full one. Listen, he just got rocked by a hapless Cubs team at home. He's now playing away both starts. Going up against Toronto and Atlanta, I'd just be a little hesitant of these 2 starts, especially with that Mets offense. It looks like maybe they're turning the corner. Lindor's back in there. We had talked about before the show. He hit a really nice triple yesterday. See him hustle that out was a good sign. I'm more hesitant of the Braves matchup. Like we talked about Toronto's offense, you just touched base on them. Hit or miss. I mean, I wouldn't mind if you want to roll him out there for Toronto, if you're in a daily league, if you're in a weekly league. If he doesn't get the win in Toronto, you're stuck with him, crossing your fingers that he at least gets you something against the Braves. So this could be like a Kevin Gausman last week that got you both losses, got you negative 10 points, over negative 10, I think he almost 12, just because he was a 2-start and you wanted to roll the dice on him for the week. That's the thing with some of these 2 starts. They'll crush you or they'll help you. And this looks like it might be on that verge of a crushing you than helping you. Same thing with Tarik Skubal, Tigers starting pitcher. Monday at New York, Sunday at the Rangers. And that Rangers offense is pretty scrappy, man. We talk about them week in and week out. On the year, 3-4, a 3.3 ERA, 10.8 a start. Last start, played against the Yankees. He was at home, still got the loss, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, 4 earned, didn't walk a batter, only got you 2 points, 2.88. On the year, like I said, great numbers, but they're not great for Skubal. They're not great for someone that you drafted in the first round, right? He just hasn't really looked the same since he got what I think got rushed back from that injury. Gave up 4 earned at home against the Yankees, and now he has to play them again in New York. And then again, the scrappy Rangers team in Texas. It's a really tough sell for next week, I think, for starting him. And then we move on to Blue Jays starting pitcher Dylan Cease Friday at Seattle. Again, on the year, really great numbers. 78 innings, 118 strikeouts, a 2.70 ERA, 12 points a start. He's 4-3. 0-1 got the last start against the Rangers team we had just talked about. Gave up 4 earned and only 4 2/3. Did give you 10 strikeouts, but 5 walks, a 3.2 ERA. I mean, 3.24 points, excuse me. The strikeouts will always be there. However, the innings usually aren't, right? In fact, I think his last 6 starts, he only went 6 innings once, going 1-3 in those 6 starts. And honestly, that 1 win didn't even come from the quality start he pitched. 5 innings, 5 earned at New York, 4 2/3, 2 earned versus the Pirates at home, 5 innings, no earned at Boston, 5 2/3 innings, 2 earned versus the Astros, and now 5 2/3, 4 earned versus the Rangers. I think he'll get a ton of Ks at Seattle. He just might not pass the 5th inning. And unfortunately, that Seattle team, as much as they do strike out, they do work counts. A lot of full counts, but a lot of strikeouts. So choose what you want. I think he'll give you the strikeouts. He might not give you the distance in this one again. This one is an interesting one. And as a Paul Skenes owner, I stand by this, and I am benching him next week. Call me crazy. He's playing Wednesday in Philadelphia. 6-7 on the year, 93 innings pitched, 114 strikeouts, a 3.1 ERA, 11.3 a start. His last start, 5 innings, 4 earned, 7 strikeouts, a no decision at home versus a Cincinnati's Red team that looked pretty beatable. Crazy, 5.4 points. Never thought I'd have him here, but as a Skene owner, like I said, I am sitting him. His last 8 starts, 0-5, 43 innings pitched, 21 earned. 58 strikeouts. He gave you 47 points. Here's the crazy part. In those 8 starts combined, 5.96 points. That's it. That is insane. A start. He's only given you 6 points a start in 8 starts. That is insane. You wonder what is wrong with him. Have hitters finally adjusted to his pitching? Does now he have to adjust? I don't know. But let me tell you, I'm not going to find out in Philadelphia. I'm sorry. It's just such a hot lineup. He can get killed by 4 players on that team off the top of my head. Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, even Brendan Marsh is hitting. It's just a scary lineup. I would sit him. I did sit him. And then last but not least, Angels starting pitcher Jose Soriano, again, in Seattle, Tuesday, 8-4 in the year. Not bad. 95 innings pitched, 102 strikeouts, a 3.4 ERA. He's giving you 11.9 to start. His last start, however, no decision at home versus a winnable Orioles lineup. 3 innings, 5 earned, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, 11 home runs in his last 11 starts with 35 walks in those 11 starts combined. It's obvious to see why those numbers and why he's fallen so hard back down to earth with this ERA just skyward. 6.19 ERA in those 11 starts. I think this is more of the pitcher he is than how he performed at the beginning of the year. If you traded him, genius. I think this streak of rough starts continues with him in Seattle.
Yeah, I think the cat's out of the bag with Jose Soriano. I think it's been a horrible, I'd say last month and a half for the most part compared to what his April was for sure. So I think he's a week-to-week guy at this point, especially for an Angels team that's just not very good as well. So not a lot of opportunity there. But going back to Paul Skenes real quick, maybe if you're in a categories league, it's not all doom and gloom when it comes to Paul Skenes. He's still going to get you a pretty good ERA. His whip's going to be low. Strikeouts are going to be there, right? He should get quality starts, for the most part. But in points leagues, points are, when it comes to wins, it's so valuable. And they are important. Like we talked about Nick Martinez, he's overperforming because of the team he plays on and getting those extra wins. And that's 4 or 5 wins. That's 40 or 50 points. That's a lot of points at the end of the year when it all adds up. So Paul Skenes in points leagues, it's a little shady right now. It's not the same guy that you drafted, bottom half of the first round, early second round, right? You expected him to go out there 32 times a year, go out there 6-7 innings, get you 10 Ks every game. That's just not going to be the case this year. We've seen it so far to this point. So you got to proceed with caution with Paul Skenes against the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm probably on the same boat as you, Doug, just because you just don't know what you're going to get sometimes with that can of worms. So, again, I'm not saying, trade Paul Skenes right now, this and that, but you just got to evaluate him on a week-to-week basis, just like you would with a lot of these other guys. Just because he's Paul Skenes doesn't mean he's invincible. And Dylan Cease, speaking of invincible, people thought he was going to be invincible this year, moving to Toronto, having that humongous contract deal, and guess what? It's the same MO. It's the same guy that we saw in San Diego throwing a bunch of pitches, right? All over the place, erratic, and you're just never going to have consistency with a Dylan Cease. Are the strikeouts going to be there? Yes, he is going to be a top 5 strikeout pitcher in the league. But it doesn't matter if he can't even go 5 innings and get you a quality start or win. So, again, you got to proceed with caution with him, especially with that Blue Jays team. Tarik Skubal. See, the thing with Tarik Skubal, Doug, not just the matchups, but it's the surgery that he had, right? They're calling it the Skubal surgery because they did it specifically for him. He's doing the same thing Blake Snell's doing right now. We don't know what the result of this is yet. This is such a brand new territory when it comes to this surgery to speed up, recovery when it comes to cleaning up your arm. Instead of been 3-4 months, now they're trying to do maybe like 6 weeks to 8 weeks. But is it worth it at this point? I don't know. We've seen Tarik Skubal now pick, 3-4 games? Hasn't been quite the same. So it's tough to say just bench Tarik Skubal, but I think you're going to have to take the risk and put him out there still. He still has Skubal. He's going to be in talks with the trade market, I feel, the next 5-6 weeks until the deadline. He's just one of those guys. And they want to see if he can go out there and perform still before a deal gets made. So I do think he's going to go out there, and I do think he's going to have to perform if he wants to get out of Detroit. And now going to Nolan McLean. I'm a Nolan McLean owner. I'm struggling this week. What do I do with this guy? If he does start 2 times this week, if everything goes right, am I going to take that risk? And I don't know if I want to or not. If you have other options, let's say you have 2 or 3 other 2-star pitchers, just put those other guys in. You don't have to flood your rotations with just 2-star pitchers, even if you have them. You got to be strategic still. So another name, too, we talked about is Gage Jump. He has 2 starts this week, too. What do you do with a guy like that? They're both at home, but one of them's against the Dodgers. Do you want to take that risk? It's the same exact question that you're asking for Nolan McLean here. So, again, what I'm going to do is I'll probably keep him on the bench this week. I think I have other options out there that I'd rather have. I think I like my better matchups that I have with some of my other pitchers. And I'm going to just wipe my hands clean with Nolan McClain, not having to worry about it rather than stressing about it throughout the week.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I mean, we always talk quality over quantity.
Yep.
You know, we do have some people that love to just stack their roster with 2-star pitchers in a weekly league. And like we always say, I mean, it's nice to get the extra start, but it's only really nice if it gets the win or, you know, at least a quality start in there and not a no decision. So, yeah, they're tough matchups. Obviously, like you said, man, you got to start Skubal. I mean, this is your first round pick. But, man, in New York, in Texas, and the Rangers, we're going to talk about them. They're only like a game and a half out. They're clawing back up, man. It's a scary week for some of these pitchers there's some big name pitchers. And the Phillies, we're going to talk about them in a second. That lineup and what they're doing down there, you got to remember they were in last place in the East. They were down double digits almost at one point. And now they're only like 4 games out. So that division that a lot of people thought the Braves were going to walk away with, it's not looking too crystal clear now with everything that's going on. So
Phillies have some momentum on their hand, and they got Dave Dombrowski as their GM. They're going to be looking at buying rather than selling for sure, especially if they feel like they have a chance at this thing. They might want to go out there and get another frontline starter, put them out there with Sanchez. They do need that second guy.
And, you know, everybody's talking about Skubal going to the Dodgers. What about Skubal going to Phillies?
That would work. That would fit the bill.
Right?
That would fit the bill.
That's a monster.
I think there's quite a few starting pitchers out there this year that if teams start to fall behind, there are some really good quality guys that teams can target. I really do. And I think we're going to have to talk about that closer to the trade deadline.
No, I agree. I totally agree. That's the fun part of trying to dissect where some of these guys are going to go, man. I always love that. Come up with these scenarios that obviously really will never happen, but
but that's what makes it the best, right?
I know. Yeah. So we talked pitchers. Now let's talk lineups and hitters, okay? I have some pretty nice must-start lineups, and what I mean by this is the matchups look pretty good for these guys. So if you want to maybe stack up and get a couple players that might be on the free agent market for some of these teams to put them in your lineup, you can do so. And I will tell you, one of them on this list is a sleeper, and he's a first baseman. And we're going to be talking about him when we talk sleepers after we talk lineups. So let's just dive right in. We talked about the Phillies, 4 games versus the Pittsburgh Pirates at home, 3 games at Kansas City, playing all week, 6-4 in their last 10. They just won the series against the Nationals and the Mets. I think that trend continues this week. They're only 4 games out of the East, like we said. Remember when they were in last by double digits? Seems like another lifetime ago. And look at who they'll see. I mean, they're going to go up against Ashcroft, Bubba Chandler, Skenes, like we talked about. Jerry Jones is day-to-day, so we're not entirely sure what's going to happen there. Michael Wacha, Avila, Noah Cameron. These are pretty decent matchups, I think, for that lineup. Then you got the Milwaukee Brewers. They're playing 7 games, 4 games at home versus the Reds, 3 games in Arizona against the Diamondbacks. They're 6-4 in their last 10, first place in the Central by 6.5 games. They just lost a series to the Braves, but then they come back. They sweep the Reds in a 4-game series. I think their offense holds up against some of these pitchers that they're going up against. Nick Lodolo, Lauder, Andrew Abbott. Chase Burns, he got kind of roughed up the other day. And I think we had him on a tough matchups last week, if memory serves me correct, didn't we?
I believe we do. I think we talked about how he doesn't go 6 innings a lot, and he didn't, right?
He did not.
I think it was 5 innings, 5 earned, right?
And he was on hook for the loss, but he ended up getting no decision because the offense pulls through. But he did give up like 4 or 5 runs, and man, might have called that one right. Anyways, so Jose Cabrera, Merrill Kelly, Erod. Again, I like the lineup. I think this is really going to be an easy week for them. Outside of Chase Burns, you really don't know, what you get with Chase Burns, but everybody else, pretty winnable. Next up, New York Yankees, 3 games. They're playing all 6 games at home. They're versus the Tigers, versus the Twins with 3 games, which is what they exactly need. Their last 10 games, they're 3-7, but they're still tied first for the AL East with the Rays. They lost a series to the Reds. They won the series against the Tigers. Now they're on the verge of getting swept by the Red Sox, right? They'll be going up against the Tigers, the same Tigers team they just beat in a series, and then that lackluster Twins rotation. They will see Skubal. They'll also see Montero, Troy Melton, Mike Paredes. I don't even know who that is. Zebby Matthews. I mean, this is an opportunity for that offense to wake up. So I think they do. I like it. I like them for next week. Going on, Seattle Mariners. They're at home all 6 games. 3 against the Angels, 3 against Toronto, 4-6 in their last 10. They're still in first by a half game with the Rangers, the Astros, and the Athletics, all within a game and a half of that division. That is a very fun division that a lot of people really aren't talking about. They lost 3. They lost a series to the Red Sox and to the Pirates, but they're going up against Ryan Johnson, Jose Soriano, Urena, Dylan Cease, Shane Bieber, who just got rocked, Trey Savage. I think this is kind of one of those things similar to the Yankees where they should be able to squeak out some of these much-needed wins, get that offense back on track. That's why I like them. And then last but not least, listen, I didn't have to add the Red Sox in here, but I wanted to because of the numbers. Just, I know it sounds very weird, very odd, but listen, please, before you judge, okay? 3 games at home versus the Nationals, 3 games away in Los Angeles versus the Angels. They are dead last in the East by 12.5 games, but 6-4 in their last 10. They just won a series against Seattle. Then they lose one to the Rockies. Now they're on the verge of sweeping the Yankees. We talk about the struggling offense that at times can go out and score you 5 to 6 runs a game, but then the next day score you 1 to 2. They're going up against Miles Mikolas, Cade Cavalli, Andrew Alvarez, Reed Detmers, Sam Algeria, and Ryan Johnson. I think the momentum that they have, if they do end up, well, I mean, they're going to win the series against the Yankees. If they sweep them, you're talking a huge momentum shift. I think they do that. That can carry over to some of these matchups. Their pitching will keep them in the game. It's can their offense outscore the other team? And for some of them, I think they can. The only one I'm more scared, maybe Reed Detmers might be a little hesitation. But everybody else, Miles Mikolas, I mean, they should score 7 runs against that guy on Monday. I don't care. They just should. That's who I got so far. Those are the matchups I like.
Yeah, man, who would have thought we'd be worried about Reed Detmers at this point of the season, huh? But you have to give credit where credit's due. You really do. But yeah, let's start with the Red Sox real quick. Like you said, they're going to have a really good series against the Yankees this weekend. Looks like they're going to potentially sweep them, but they're going to win the series regardless. And it's all about the momentum, right? We talk about the Nationals offense and how good that offense can be, but their pitching is just not as good. Let's just call it for what it is. I like Cade Cavalier. I think he's something that to maybe in a year or two to look out for, but this is kind of like his, kind of coming out party a little bit. But like you said, all those guys in those pitching rotations that you mentioned are very, very hittable. And it's just up to the Red Sox if they are going to show up or not. It's kind of like they've been their MO this whole entire year to this point. With New York and Seattle, man, nothing fixes a slump better than a homestand coming up. Once you get back home, sometimes you just get right back into the swing of things, no pun intended. But with New York, I think that is the perfect series, right? Tigers, Twins, kind of just 2 dumpster fire teams in the AL Central, just not performing at all. This is exactly what the Yankees need. I would be loading up on Yankee bats, even the ones that I'm not even big fans of. I'm talking like the Jazz Chisholms of the world. I know he's been swinging an all right bat recently, but again, we know how much he can kill you with strikeouts and points leagues. But I'm riding everyone, I think, at this point on the Yankees this week just because of the matchups. Just too good to be having them on the bench, and there's too much potential. Ben Rice, man, he could have a great week if it all goes right for him, right? Going back to Seattle, hey, they hit a wall when it comes to their offense. Randy Arozarena, definitely not the same guy that we saw the first couple months of the year. We saw last week, Doug, he was on part of our Who's Not list, right? He was an honorable mention. Those strikeouts are starting to creep back up again. J-Rod's all right. Naylor hasn't really picked it up since we've seen him come to Seattle last year. Just hasn't been that same player. But, again, it's about your matchups. An Angels team that's coming in that's really bad I think that's a great matchup for them. And it doesn't sound like they're going to seed Reed Detmers either. So they should have some favorable matchups there. And then again, the Blue Jays all up and down right now. Kevin Gausman hasn't been pitching well. Cease hasn't been going deep into games. Savage is still kind of getting his feet under him. Hasn't been like that electric guy that we saw last year in the playoffs, right? Again, a homestand can fix a lot of things, especially if it's going bad for your recent time. Milwaukee, I love Milwaukee, Doug. I was actually just talking to a guy about Milwaukee last night and just saying, man, how good are they year in, year out, just as an overall baseball team? If you had 9 Bryce Terangs out there, you'd be in the World Series every year, I feel. But that's just kind of the team they are. They're a bunch of guys that are coming together, really hitting the ball well. They had that call-up on shortstop. Forgive me, I forget his name, but they did pay him a pretty good amount of money that he's starting to produce now in the shortstop role. So they got youth. They got your veterans. Jackson Cherio has been great since coming off of the IL. I feel like he's really kind of, putting his best foot forward, moving, I think a home run yesterday, Saturday night. So, again, just a team that's just fully loaded, ready to go. And then the same thing with the Phillies. I feel like week in, week out, Doug, we're talking about Phillies offense and how good they are. Man, isn't it great to see a prime Bryce Harper just smashing the ball recently? I mean, that's what we've been missing in baseball. And good for Bryce Harper, sending a warning shot out to the league saying, hey, guess what? We're here, and we're here to stay. And then hitting a home run yesterday to back that up. So, again, whether if it's Brandon Marsh, who's just been awesome this year, who should be an all-star, Kyle Schwarber, Harper, even a little Alec Boehm, give him some love. I think I'm starting all those guys this week against these two teams.
That's a good call, Alec Boehm, because he was one of our sleepers for last week, and he hit an RBI double right now. They're up 3-0 on the Mets. So, again, maybe we got something going, man. Maybe with these sleepers.
Get the magic touch right now, Doug.
The magic touch. So let's talk about some tough matchups for some of these lineups. Let me just run through the list here. So I do have the Cleveland Guardians. I mean, listen, 3 games at home versus the Rangers, 4 games at home versus the White Sox. Yes, they're playing all 7 games, but their last 10, man, they're 4-6. They're 1 game out of first. I mean, they were up by like 4 or 5 at one point. DeGrom, Evaldi, Mackenzie Gore, but Davis Martin, Anthony Kay, Sean Burke, this could be a very long week for this Cleveland Guardians team. Very long, because they're going up against some really, really good pitchers and strikeout pitchers besides that. Next up, I got the Twins. 3 games at Houston, 3 games at New York, 5-5 in their last 10, 5.5 out of first in the Central, putting them in 3rd place. They won a series against the Diamondbacks. Then they just get swept by the Dodgers, which we all knew was going to happen anyways. They'll face a Peter Lambert, Mike Burrows, Tatsua, who is pitching really good lights out his last 4 or 5 starts. Garrett Cole, Carlos Rondon, Ryan Weathers, they're all the way. Tough matchup. And then we just talked about them. Let's touch base a little more, right? Toronto's Blue Jays. They're 3 games versus the Mets at home, 3 games in Seattle, 4-6 in their last 10, currently 3rd place out of the East by 9.5 games. They lost 5 in a row. They lost a series against the Astros, a series against the Rangers. Now they're going up against Nolan McLean, Sean Manaea, Freddie Peralta, who looked pretty good his last start. The only thing is the Seattle rotation, a lot of question marks. Again, you got Luis Castillo now back in the rotation. He goes from pitching to piggyback, pitching to piggyback, pitching to piggyback. Now he's pitching again. So it's really tough to figure out who they're going to be facing with that 6-man rotation unless they end up having him piggyback again. But I want to say Gilbert, Hancock, and Brian Wu look to be the ones. If for some reason Wu, he could end up sitting out and George Kirby could be in there. I don't know. Either way, it doesn't really scare me. The rotation is so good. Unless they're going against Luis Castillo, I feel like this could be a good matchup for that pitching rotation. So, which would mean a really tough matchup for that Toronto Blue Jays offense. Then you got the San Diego Padres, 3 games at Chicago, 4 games. This is a 7-game week here for them at LA. 6-4 in their last 10, second place in the West, out by 9 games still. Lost a series to the Rangers. Then they go out. Then they sweep the Braves, which is pretty good. Now they're in that split game Sunday for the Dodgers to see who wins that series. The offense looks like it's going in the right direction, but again, it's a tough matchup. They're going up against Matt Boyd, Colin Ray, Yamamoto, Eric Lauer, who looked like he kind of turned a page coming from Toronto, and Sasaki, who is night and day. So, it could go either way for them. To me, I think it's still a tough matchup. Yeah, you can sit there and say the lineup has turned a page, but Tatis still only has like 3 home runs on the year, maybe 4. Manny Machado's batting 184. So you can tell me, have they really turned the page? I don't know. It's a tough sell for me. And then last but not least, I do have the Cincinnati Reds, 4 games at Milwaukee, 3 games at home versus the Orioles, 5-5 their last 10. They're in last place in the Central, 11.5 games out. They lost a series to the Yankees. They just got swept by the Brewers. Now they have to go in and face the Brewers in Milwaukee. They're going to be facing Mizorowski, Kyle Harrison, Brandon Young, was very surprised, Kyle Bradish. These are winnable games for these pitching staffs. They should go out there and they should be able to dominate this Reds offense. I'm not going to say they're going to go out and sweep them. I think they do have some favorable matchups. They do play against Shane Baz, who gave up a ton of runs. But offensively for the entire week, it's a little tough.
It is because, you got streaky guys. I think a Sal Stewart is a pretty streaky guy. He had a really good first half of the first half of the year, but now he's starting to slowly come back around, right? He's had a pretty good week so far this week. Ellie De La Cruz is still getting his feet under him since coming back from the IL. It just hasn't been the same Ellie that we saw the first couple months. Even JJ Bleday is starting to take a step back. He came out so hot for them as well. So the whole Cincinnati Reds offense, it's just very tough to gauge. It's just really, you don't know what you're going to get day in, day out with these guys. And you just don't have a lot of consistent guys to be starting from that team. And you can say the same thing for Cleveland. You can say the same thing for the Twins. You could probably only have maybe 4 guys from both of those teams that you can say, yeah, I can have them on a roster, or yeah, I can put them in my starting lineup. Byron Buxton, he's been great. Obviously, much start guy, right? Jose Ramirez, when he's playing, he's a much start guy. He's great. I think Travis Bazanza, the second baseman for Cleveland, I think he's really earned a spot on fantasy rosters at this point, and he could be startable at second base. Totally cool. Brooks Lee, he shows moments. Maybe you put him on the bench to see if he's going to pop off eventually. But really, I don't see any of those teams and any of those players being really fantasy competitive at this point. So if you do have these guys on your team, it tells me that you already have probably a weaker roster, right, Doug? If you're grasping at straws with these teams, you just don't really know what you're going to get. So there's going to be much better options, especially for this coming week, if you have any of those guys that I did not just mention that are on these teams. The Blue Jays, what a headache. I'm looking at Vlad Guerrero's numbers, Doug. Just not the same guy. He is just not the same Vlad Guerrero that we thought he was going to be this year. The power's not there. Even the OPS, I think I saw, Doug, 703. It was extremely low for a guy that has the potential to be more like in that 900 range, right? So again, there's not a lot to like in that Toronto lineup, in my opinion, at this point. And again, it's also relying on pitching too for them. So they're kind of like, again, wishy-washy, up and down. I don't know what they're going to be in the second half. I think they're going to be better in the second half. I hope they take that experience that they had from that World Series run and bring it back. But so far to this point, it's kind of been struggle bus for Toronto at this point. And then see San Diego Padres, Doug. I'm a big fan. I mentioned it last Friday. I'm buying into them. And you mentioned some of those pitching matchups. Maybe they're not the best, but I think they're winnable games for the Padres. But from a fantasy perspective, though, I think there's only a couple guys you have to ride out, right? Fernando Tatis Jr., right? He's been hitting really well. He's batting 280s. He's starting to show a little bit more pop. And then another guy, Jackson Merrill, he took a step back again, Doug. He is just not been taking that step forward. Again, young guy, 21, 22 years old, only his second full season in the majors, but hasn't taken that step forward this year to being like a 4 or 5 tool guy that we thought he was going to be. But other than that, it's kind of a tough road right now for the Padres for the most part offensively, from a fantasy perspective, just not producing really whatsoever.
Right. And just to get back on that Guardians thing, outside of J-Ram, I mean, if you were talking to me last year, I would have said, whoa, Manzardo could be rosterable at least. Stephen Kwan was a top 15 outfielder. Now look at him. It's everybody has taken a back seat, really. It's a huge step back.
I think I was looking at Stephen Kwan earlier, Doug. I think he's batting 203. I don't even think he's almost under the Mendoza line.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about. And again, I think it just shows you how one person can really affect a lineup. And, not to say he was hitting when J-Ram was in there, but things were a little better. Now that he's not, this team is really taking a step back. They've fallen out of first place. And don't look now, but the Chicago White Sox are making a run. And honestly, I'm starting to become a believer. For the White Sox. I really am. Their pitching staff looks really good. Murakami, even when he went down, they were still hitting. My only hesitation or concern is how far is Andrew Benintendi going to get you batting cleanup in that lineup?
That's a fair question, but it's the other guys, right? It's the Miguel Vargases of the world.
Yeah.
It's Kyle Teal just came back, right? I don't think he's hitting that bad to this point.
No.
It's only been a week, but I think in fantasy he had like 10 or 11 points. Hey, and in catching, that can be pretty good depending on who your catcher is. He's going to be a contact guy too. I don't think he's going to strike out too much, so that could be a potential option down the road if you need a catcher. If you got an injured catcher right now, Hicks is hurt. Adley's hurt, right? He's still on the IL, so he could be a valuable option too. But there's a lot to like with that team. Brandon Montgomery's still obviously getting his feet under him, but young talent. You got Murakami coming back. There's some veteran leadership in there. There's a lot to like there. I'm kind of buying in. I'm not going to lie. I think I want it to work is what it is. I want it to work.
Me too. I'm sold. I really am. As crazy as that sounds. So let's talk. Let me talk about a couple people that maybe hit the IL or a day-to-day just to watch. Really not a big list. Then we'll dive into sleepers. We'll talk about hitting sleepers and then pitching sleepers. So, I mean, I don't know how big of a loss it is. He was drafted pretty high, but I'm talking about Royals third baseman Miguel Garcia. He landed on a 10-day IL. He's got that left hand muscle strain. They're saying early June, so it sounds like just the minimum for him. And then really it's only just a couple key players that are day-to-day you might want to keep an eye on. Shortstop Jacob Wilson with that shoulder injury. He missed most of the week. They were saying he could play off the bench yesterday, which was Saturday. He never showed up, and they never pitched hit him. So I don't know what's going on. And then Reds starting pitcher Nick Lodolo. I know he's in line to start Monday, but he did have that wrist injury. So I don't know if that's going to kind of linger on to his start. So just a couple things to look out for. Now, let's get into some sleepers, some sleeper hitters right here. And they're fun, man. They are fun. Let me break them down. Mike, I'd love to get your input on some of these guys. I have Mariners shortstop J.P. Crawford. He's only 6.7% owned. We talked about the matchup, right? 3 games versus the Angels at home, 3 games versus Toronto. He's at home all 6. He's giving you 1.9 to start. He's got 10 home runs. He's a good option for Pop from a shortstop position. He's had a couple good He has a couple good matchups for this week ahead of him. He's finally back from injury. He's playing every day. You just hope the rest of that offense can just kind of go on and help and give him some opportunities to get on base and whatnot. But I do like him for this upcoming week. Next up, we talked about the Nationals. Dylan Cruz, 5.9% owned, 3 games at Fenway in Boston, 3 games at home versus the Pirates, 310, 2 ribbies, 7 runs, a stolen base, 14 points for the week, 2 points he's given you on the year for the season. Not too bad. I think this Nationals offense is just so unpredictable. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. But to your point, like you said earlier, Mike, of those 10 games, they're averaging 3.3 runs a start, which isn't crazy. That's decent, very decent. And he's a big reason why. He's finally back. He's getting every day at bats again. It looks like maybe that little thing that they sent him down in AAA, maybe he's kind of worked him out a little bit. And 310 for the last 7 games. I like it. And then last but not least, my favorite guy, Yankees first base DH Paul Goldschmidt, 21% owned, 3 games versus the Tigers, 3 games versus the Twins at home. Let's talk about the Renaissance man himself, Yankees first baseman Paul Goldschmidt. 291, 14 homers, 40 ribbies, 31 runs, 45 strikeouts, a stolen base, 157 points, 2.8 a start for the year. Last 7 games, 2 homers, 3 ribbies, 4 runs. This is a guy I was pretty sure after last year would either retire, or I really, really thought he was going to sign a 1-year deal with the Diamondbacks to go back there, go back to where it all began, and then right after that, call it a career. Arizona ends up signing Carlos Santana, which was a horrible sign. He was going to fill that hole that was left by Josh Naylor. Goldie really didn't have a lot of options. He signs on with the Yankees again as a bench guy. Well, lo and behold, injuries rack up, playing time opens up, Goldie steps in, doesn't look like he's missing a beat. Putting up numbers we haven't seen from him in a very long time. I might be a little biased. I do own him. I've started him the last 3 weeks, and he is not disappointed. Some favorable matchups this week. Pick him up, get him in your lineup. 21% owned is wild for a guy that averages 2.3 a start in fantasy. That is a fantasy foul, in my opinion.
You know, I would even go as far, we just talked about Vlad Guerrero. I would go as far as maybe even starting him over Vlad Guerrero at this point until Vlad Guerrero figures it out. Like you said, a Renaissance man. He's been hitting for weeks now. We love the lineups this week. We love the matchups this week. Why don't you just ride it out, right? And, you know, it sounds crazy. Mike, you got to tell me to bench Vlad Guerrero? Yeah, I'm telling you right now, do it. And if you got Paul Goldschmidt on your bench, put him in the lineup. Just because it's been that much of a drastic change. And also, Paul Goldschmidt does have some pop in his bat. And I can actually argue that he probably has more pop in his bat than Vlad does when it comes to power to this point this year. Who would have thought we've been saying that? But here we are. That's what we're doing right now. We're saying it. Man, Dylan Cruz, great to see him back on the list. I think it's been very good for Dylan Cruz to go down and play in AAA as long as he did. I think last year when he played and made his debut, I think he put a lot of pressure on himself. Being a top drafted pick, being called up so early in his career. He was only drafted, 24? So he already saw playing time in 25. And I think he put a lot of pressure on himself. I think now when you fast forward to this team in Washington with James Wood, Luis Garcia Jr., you have C.J. Abrams. Like, you have a lot of good hitters on that team. And you also have Jacob Young, who's been playing really good outfield as well for him. I think some of the pressure is off. It's not going to be just him that needs to be producing and getting on base. So I think it's going to be an easier time for him to get his feet under himself. And we're starting to see it already, too. So, again, if he's available in your leagues, at least put him on a watch list to see how he's going to continue this progress. Like you said, Doug, last week, 10 points. I mean, yeah, 10 points. It's not 20 or 30 points, but maybe this is the start of something good with Dylan Cruz. Like we said, one of the top picks in 2024 last couple years ago. So a lot of potential. And then J.P. Crawford, love the pick here because before he got hurt a few weeks ago, he was playing really good baseball for the Seattle Mariners at shortstop. Then he got hurt. Then he came back, and then he's kind of been so-so. But it looks like he's starting to find himself again. And this is a guy that you do want to ride out. Again, we like the matchups. We always say home matchups usually fix problems. So against the Angels, against the Blue Jays, love the matchups with J.P. Crawford. And we know shortstop can be a little tough at times. Like you said, if you have a Jacob Wilson, you're trying to find a replacement, J.P. Crawford might fit that bill perfectly for you this week.
Nicely said. Nicely said. And just to hop on Paul Goldschmidt one last time, talk about a steal for the New York Yankees. Sign this guy. I mean, if he's on pace for 30 homers, 85-plus ribbies, 70, 80 runs, less than 100 strikeouts. Probably hitting around 280. That's a great – I mean, that's just a great – he was probably picked off a free agency in fantasy. But I'm pretty sure they only signed him for like 1 year, like, $10 million contract or so. I mean, that's a steal. That's a steal for them.
Yeah.
Here.
That's rosterable, startable all day, every day in my book.
Yep. 2.8 start, man. You can't argue that. And it's funny because just when you think maybe that magic is run out, so he'll go a couple games and you'll be like, oh man, it's what's going on with him? He just belched a 3-run home run. It's crazy. I remember Sunday last week, I'm watching the game and I'm like, man, is he going to do something? Should I? Because this is kind of going to affect my decision of what to do for next week. Like if he doesn't hit anything and hits a 3-run home run, and I say, you know what? I'll keep rolling with him. Keep rolling with him. So let's go from pitching to hitting. And again, I'm going to just I'm all in. I'm all in on Chicago. There they are. I already said they were. I'm not pulling any punches on this one. Let's go over it, and let me tell you why. Because there's a lot of reason why. So you got White Sox starting pitcher Anthony Kay. He's only 6.5% owned. He's pitching Friday at Cleveland. Last start, he did pitch against Cleveland. He was at home. He went 6 innings, no earned, 8 strikeouts. He got a tough no decision. The bullpen blew it. Still got you 15.88 points. But listen to this. 5-1 in his last 9 starts. And some of those weren't cheap wins. Versus Seattle, versus the Dodgers. He should be able to repeat his Monday performance against the Guardians. And hopefully this offense can just score him some more runs and that bullpen doesn't blow it for him. Same thing. White Sox starting pitcher Sean Burke. He's 16% owned, 16.9. He's a 2-starter. None of them are home, but Monday at Baltimore, Saturday at Cleveland, averaging 8.9 to start this year. But he's going 3-1 in his last 4 starts. 22 innings pitched, 27 strikeouts. Again, not cheap wins. At Philly, at New York against the Yankees versus the Guardians. I think the hot streak continues against these 2 teams. And then last but not least, a lot of people really aren't talking about this guy. Brandon Young, Orioles starting pitcher. He's only 15% owned. Friday, he's pitching against the Reds in Cincinnati. His last start against that Nationals offense we talked about, 5 innings, 2 earned, 8 strikeouts, 2 walks, got a no decision, got you about 11 points. 3-1 in his last 5, wins at Toronto, win versus Seattle at home, and he beat the Dodgers in LA, playing against a last-place Reds team. Even though the Orioles are far out of first in the East, they're only 2.5 games out of the wild card. So these are winnable games. And these are the ones that you should be able to rack up if you want to make a run, a push at the end of the year. And I can see Young going out there and getting the win against Cincinnati and at least giving his team this win that they probably definitely need, at least to stay in chase for the wild card.
Yeah, Brandon Young reminds me of like a Trevor Rogers last year, right? Same team too. Kind of came out of nowhere, right? Had a sub-3 ERA, like a 1.0 WHIP, and you just kind of figured, oh, when's it going to stop? When's it going to stop? And then it never stops. Brandon Young is kind of doing that right now for the last few starts. Actually, last 4 or 5 starts, Doug, right? Yeah. I feel like he's been very consistent since joining that rotation, which is something that Baltimore needed, by the way. A lot of their guys have not been panning out the way they thought they would. We talked about Shane Baz a little bit. He's been getting beat up a lot after getting that contract with them from that trade as well from the Rays. Like, just been kind of a dumpster fire rotation to this point, but it's great to see Brandon Young kind of really stabilizing that. So, again, I'm riding out Brandon Young. If you do have him, if he's available, go pick him up if he's still available. And then also for that note too, Doug, Trevor Rogers, the last 2 starts, has been pretty good. I think he had 24 and then 22 in his last 2 starts. So maybe he's turning a corner. Just put a thing on the watch list just to see if it's real or not, because obviously this year has been a really tough year. But going back to the other 2 White Sox pitchers, I mean, why not ride out the hot hand? Like you said, they were not gimme wins for Sean Burke. Sean Burke last year was their opening day starter. They had a lot of high expectations for him. So looks like this year, round 2, he's going to start to be putting into form. It looks like a little bit more comfortable out there in his starts. And then, hey, everything fixes itself when you're winning, too. When you're winning baseball games like the White Sox are, some things just all come together. So Sean Burke is definitely one of those guys that's just coming together for him this year. And Anthony Kay, again, I think this is more the right out the hot hand. I'm not 100% all in on Anthony Kay. But the way the White Sox have been playing, and then we talk about points leagues and how wins matter, you kind of have to roll them out against the Guardians. I think that's a great matchup for Friday night. And then one last sleeper I did have, Doug. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Jake Conley for the Red Sox joined that rotation.
Yeah.
Pretty good so far to this point. Again, is it going to last? But at this point of the season, these are the kind of risks that you're going to have to take when it comes to finding starting pitching and consistent pitching. You're going to have to take risks on guys that are getting called up and seeing if they can make it or break it. We've seen guys pitch really well 2 or 3 games and then all of a sudden fall apart 4, 5, 6. So is that going to be the case with Jay Conley? Is that going to be the case for Anthony Kay here? Brandon Young? We don't know, but I like what they're doing so far. So I'm going to ride those out.
Awesome. No, I agree. Like I said, I like the White Sox, and that rotation is just kind of sneaky. It's very sneaky in there. So let's talk some quick updates. Reds starting pitcher Hunter Greene. He'll make his last rehab start Sunday, which is today, and he'll then be called up. He's pitched 8 scoreless innings with 9 strikeouts and 2 walks. They're looking to build him up to 80 to 85 pitches. I don't know if I would put him in for next week. I might give him one more week to get stretched out a little more before I do that. Talking about the White Sox, first baseman, Murakami. He looks to be running the bases. He's at about 80%, which puts him on track to return a little before the All-Star break. So about a week and a half, which is good news. And then last but not least, you have Dodgers starting pitcher Blake Snell, who threw 15-pitch bullpen session Friday. He still has a few more sessions to make before he faces live hitters, then a rehab start. But all that said, if it goes smoothly, he could return early second half. But again, has to go smooth. And there's no reason for them to push him, so they're not going to push him. He's going to go at his own pace. Same thing with Tyler Glasnow. There's still no timetable with him either, but they don't really need it. It's a luxury if they're back. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, those are the 2 stash guys of the drafts, right? You know, Hunter Greene, we knew was going to be a minute before he came back. Blake Snell was a stash, did come back, obviously had the cleanup surgery. But again, he kind of just turned to like a restash, I guess. But yeah, All-Star break looks good for him. You know, Dodgers are going to be way up there. So again, when it comes to Blake Snell, there's going to be no rush for them to bring him back. So really be patient with him. Just because he comes back in the All-Star break doesn't mean he's going to be in your lineups immediately. Hunter Greene, though, on the other hand, I'm a little bit more excited about. I think he looks great. His pitch count looks up. What is that, 80 to 85 pitches already? His velocity is already up there. He's going to be something to watch out for in the second half.
No, I totally agree. All right, man. Well, it's funny because every week these episodes get longer and longer. We're almost on an hour. Wow. We could probably talk days, to be honest with you, about this stuff. But hopefully we have given you the right information and supplied you with the right equipment to go out and win your matchup this week. We talked about the hottest hitters that we think will be hot, lineups, pitchers, and some really good sleepers. So take what you want from what we give you, and hopefully you go out and you win. All right? Don't forget to watch us. We're live Fridays. Come in, 8 p.m. Eastern. Ask us questions. We're here. We have a good time. We have a nice little drink, and we all just talk fantasy baseball. What more could you ask for on a Friday night, right? So, again, fantasy FSAN, Bourbon and Ball. For Mikey V, I'm Doug. We'll see you live Friday night. And good luck this week.